So you're trying to convince me of your position by using evidences you know I don't accept. I'm sorry, but you're not doing good so far. I don't want to interrupt.
This guy is dangerous, man. You're butchering our concept, bro.
But listen,
They are my authority.
if it's something,
They will be mine when I look
They're
into
your
Islam.
authority.
Yeah, of course.
And are you trying to convince me of your position?
Well, what I'm saying is that I
Yes,
would
you are,
appeal
but
to scholarship,
exactly,
right?
that's the problem. You didn't answer that. Are you trying to
you
convince me
mean?
of your position?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're trying to convince me of your position by using evidences you know I don't accept. I'm sorry, but you're not doing good so far.
Well, no, my point is that you're
It's like
wrong-
me
you're
using the
wrong to
heretic. It's like
reject
me
it.
using the Quran to it's like what the hell?
My point is that if you reject scholarship, I don't know where to go.
Okay, but the
I really
problem
don't
is,
wanna go.
but scholarship.
We're using only
Do you
Western
reject
human.
scholarship?
Okay, no. What do you mean
We're using
scholarship?
we're using
Was it just
only
I
Western
feel
scholarship?
no. I feel scholarship is a very subjective
But you're not
term.
using our scholarship.
See,
You're
my point is if you are basically going to say, right,
We
I don't
were
like the
discriminating
For
Western
example, I'll tell you
scholarship,
an
well,
example. When I
you
make
won't
an
even
argument
look at the
against you, right? I may use a scholar if I know the evidence. I wouldn't just use a scholar randomly and say this is the position, but I would use a scholar with the evidence. If the scholar's basing this opinion of concluding it off of Eusebius, for example, I will go to Eusebius's work. Like for example, about the Papias, book 3, chapter 39, right, where Mark's a bearer of Peter or whatever. I will go to Eusebius's work directly. Eusebius's work, it's not really disputed. I mean, there's some people who dispute it, but that to me is like a bit critical. I don't like that approach. But generally, it's accepted. So I'll go to that text, right? So likewise, when we're talking about this, do I accept academia? If it's something which is verifiable that I myself can go to and I can verify, and we can look at the Muslim scholars as well, historically, not a 20th century Muslim scholar or Christian scholar or whatever academic. No, we have to look at our traditions, right?
Right, but what if a scholar comments on your traditions? Can you accept his view?
Depends. Okay. Do I accept that he has the view? Yeah, but do I agree with the view? No.
No, but can you?
What do you mean?
So, for example, Muin van Putten translates Al-Jazari and he shows you it and he says, look, Al-Jazari never says mutawata.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
Will you
point.
accept that?
That's a really good question. So if he translates a work from an Arabic scholar, for example, and he says, this scholar says this, would I accept it? There's multiple things. It goes back to the other thing. I have to verify the manuscripts in totality. Did this scholar really, does his work say that? Or is he appealing to one manuscript? Because even when we're discussing Aqeedah, Muslim to Muslim, like we have to take a look at the manuscripts of Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, Abu Hassan al-Ashari.
Yeah, but okay,
So
manuscripts is a weak thing to appeal to. For example, in Hadith, you don't really have manuscripts.
No,
You have
that's not necessarily true. I'll tell you
no,
why.
No, you have manuscripts of people talking about
Like,
how they knew people who had that view.
we have manuscripts.
But you don't
No.
actually have that writing.
We have manuscripts of, for example, Imam Bukhari's Sahih. We have
Yeah, but
manuscripts.
when?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so
Imam
you wouldn't
Bukhari.
really
No. But manuscripts, for example, and there's someone like on rocks and stuff. I think Sean Anthony. You know about Sean Anthony? You read his work, right? About Muhammad
I quoted him
Sallallahu
earlier.
Yeah, I know.
Sean
No, but
Anthony.
it's different from quoting and like. I'm not trying to say I haven't read it, but I want to know if you read it.
Sean Anthony. Yeah, I know Sean Anthony.
No, but I followed up by saying specifically respect to his work about Muhammad Sallallahu where he talks about the existence. He gives the examples, right? And he talks about how things are written on rocks about Muhammad Sallallahu
You know,
coins, etc.
he actually rejects most, if not all, of the seerah.
Oh, what? Sorry.
Sean W. Anthony rejects most, if not all, of the seerah.
That's not a problem at all.
Okay, I'm just
that's fine.
begging your word.
Even like,
So,
and that's another point as well. Like when it comes to the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when it comes to like the early seerah, for example, right? You say like Ibn Ishaq, for example, or Ibn Hisham, right? I mean,
yeah.
this like we do, subhanallah, we have the same standard. I'm showing you our consistency. Our early seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Hisham, what? We verify it. If they make a statement and we cannot verify it, we reject it. For example, I believe in Ibn Ishaq's, or Ibn Hisham, his book on Seerah, the early Seerah, he mentions, for example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam torturing a Jewish man for his gold and saying, give me your gold, and putting a steel thing on him. We reject this because he didn't give a chain for it, right? So even our own scholars, we reject it. There's no chain.
So
he's gonna accept it.
for a lot
He's going to accept. This one he's going to accept.
this is where it gets problematic.
I'm joking. Go
This is where it
ahead.
gets problematic.
Go ahead.
Because, so for me, if I want to establish the historicity of something, or at least more probable than not that something is historical.
You're going to go to all the evidence, right? You're going to
Yeah,
say?
but I'm also going to look at the historical criteria that we have as academics. So I would point to the earliest records. The problem with Islam is that they basically purge a lot of their earliest records. So for example, Sahih Bukhari, if you look at the 6 most authentic books of Hadith, they're dated much later than, for example, Ibn Ishaq. Right?
I know what you're
So
saying.
the
I
problem
think
I
Daniel
have-
Brubaker made this argument, right?
Oh, I don't know if
He made this argument.
Well, this is like
It's mainly got big
Gabriel
from him.
Reynolds would make this.
And
Many
Daniel
people would make
Brubaker was
this.
the beginning of the, first did this argument, he made it very
Cohen
big.
would make this, Michael Cook would
That's
make
fine.
this,
Yeah,
O'Connor
so
would
this
make
argument we know about as well,
Right.
that's fine.
My point though is that if in Islam you have some of the earliest sources saying things, and they're mass repeated, there's a lot of ruwiyah that goes back.
Riwayah.
Ruwayah.
Riwayah.
I don't know if I pronounce it from this.
We're talking about Hadith or Quran now. I don't understand what we're talking about.
Wait, different narrations,
about-
different.
it's
They
like
supposedly
changed
go
it
back,
to-
right? But they don't go back to Muhammad. They go back
Sallallahu
to some of the Tabi or Tabi'un or something like that.
the narration,
right?
that's
Some
okay.
member of the
That's
Salaf.
fine. Okay.
And they do it in mass. Like they transmit like 50 different ones. Of
I know you're talking about based
the
off of
narration
someone.
that
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
right,
but
I know.
my point though is that it seems reasonable to me, using the historical approach that we have in critical scholarship,
gonna go back
to simply say.
by the way, that's not
well, it
true,
looks-
by the way,
it
about
looks
the hadith.
likely. Wait, it looks likely that the early Sahaba believed that.
I'll tell you why that's
But
false.
no, it's a good point. You said, you know, it's a good point.
I
He
think it's
said,
a misconception.
She doesn't go back to
Imam
Muhammad.
al-Bukhari, for example. Let's go back to Muhammad
don't
sallallahu
give
alaihi wasallam. Who was
They
before?
don't go back
Who
to
was
it.
before?
I find that weak if they don't go back to the
The
Prophet.
reason why though is they did not
one
think of it
answer,
that
one
way.
answer.
The early Muslim companions did not think it was essential to go back to Muhammad.
How do you know that? How do you know
Because
that?
they didn't.
How do you know that?
Because they didn't.
How do you know that?
Because there's tons of right.
Oh, so you want to appeal to the later evidence? So you want to appeal to the later evidence to know what the Sahaba believe, but you don't appeal to that same evidence to what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said?
Even
I'm asking if they don't go back to-
Ibn Ishaq is weak. We can take a look at Ahmad ibn Hanbal, for example. Many shayukh say he's weak.
The reason why they're weak is partly because they're not complete.
No, I'll
They're
tell
also
you.
not
No,
mutawatir.
that's not
They're
true.
just singular
That's not true,
chains.
that's not true.
There's tons of them.
That's not true. I'll
So
tell you
you
why.
have to believe
In Ibn Majah,
just like
I want to know why you think of it if
it
they don't go back. I want to know why you think.
confused about what people believe.
Ask him why you think of it.
spend time. He's gonna.
Keep
He's
in mind,
looks-
by the way,
he
this is a
looks-
separate
No, no,
conversation
but
about whether
that's
this
false.
actually happened.
That's a misunderstanding.
Wait,
No, no,
wait,
wait.
let me just
I have to
make one
respond.
point.
That's a misunderstanding of Ibn
One
Ishaq.
point,
That's not
no,
why.
no,
That's not why.
This isn't a
Go
question
ahead.
about whether this actually happened. This is a question about what the companions believed.
And how do you know what they believe?
Because they kept writing it. They kept saying, this guy says this, says this.
Oh, but you just said
This
a minute
guy
ago
says
that we
this,
have
says
no
this.
writings of that early.
So if he doesn't
No,
go back,
no, the earliest is Ibn Ishaq. I'm quoting Ibn Ishaq.
Okay,
to you.
Ibn Ishaq. Okay, do you know why we weaken
Yes,
him?
that's the earliest.
Do you know why the scholars say he's weak? Give me
Because-
all
for
the
many
reasons.
reasons.
what evidence man? You
First of all, people say his character is in question. For one thing, right? There's that. Second one is that he doesn't give full chains. Is that. Third, they're not mutawatir. Most
No,
of
but
them
that's
are
not. That
ahad.
in of itself is not a reason. First of all, having and narrating things which are ahad in of
If your
itself is
character
not
is
a
in question,
problem.
that is enough to make a sahih.
Just saying that
If
isn't-
he doesn't go
No,
back
no,
to
no,
Muhammad, why you think
Depending on
of
the
it?
scholar.
Why do I think of
That's
it?
not. That's not true though. That's not true.
Why do I think of
I'll
it?
tell
Why
you
he doesn't go back to it?
It's very different. I'm new to this speaker's corner. So it's very. I used to speak online. It's a bit different, yeah. Okay. So when it comes to this, simply narrating things which are ahad is not a problem. We do not weaken someone because they narrate a lot of hadith which is one singular in chain. But the problem comes when, for example, Ibn Majah 1944. You know about this, right? The goat ate the sheep. The goat ate the Quran. We know about it. This is an example to show he's weak. Why? Because he narrates things which are ahad which contradict the mutawatir. So simply narrating things which are ahad is not enough to say someone's weak. But if they narrate something which consistently contradicts that which is what mutawatir or more authentic, which is a principle in hadith, we reject that which is weaker. If they contradict, that's why they say he's weak. It's a multiplicity of things.
Yeah, that's
So
fine. Absolutely.
Ibn
It's a
Ishaq-
holistic
yeah.
case, and that's why scholars can have independent valuations
Yes, sir.
about the strength of a particular hadith. My point is, though, is that you can make an argument for the da'ifness of Ibn Ishaq's narrations based on the fact his character is in question. The fact that it's only ahad. The fact that it doesn't go back to Muhammad.
The ahad-
The fact- yeah,
Alright, so it
that's
doesn't
my
go
point.
back to-
Well, anyway, look, my point is this. The earliest accounts that we have that have chains are not complete chains. The early Sahaba, the Salaf actually in general, did not care about that.
Why
It's
I'm asking why
only
I
in
think
the
of it when he
second
doesn't
half
go
of
back
the
to
8th
Muhammad? So I
century
want to know, but
that
why you
Muslims start to have this criteria
no, 'cause
that
I'm-
things, in order to be sahih, they have to go back to Muhammad.
Because
There has
all
to
those
be a
things
complete
quote
chain.
about Ibn Masud Quran.
No, but
You know, as all things he quote about Ibn Masud reject the Quran. There's none of them go back to the Prophet.
yeah.
So that's why you want to know his
So-
position. That's why you don't
my
understand.
point is this: according to Dr. Shahab Ahmed, who writes about one of the early oral traditions that go back, supposedly the Salaf said about Muhammad is that he was at some point possessed. The Satan threw words into his mouth and and then Jibril comes to correct him, and then it's
So
all
we know
good.
about this, the satanic
Yeah.
one.
But the point is,
Camera, you
Dr.
just-
Shahab Ahmed is a Muslim, and the way he justifies it is he says, look, I don't think this actually happened. What I think happened is that the
Who says this,
Dr. Shahab Ahmed. He did his PhD on this particular topic. He even did a thing about
I know
Ibn
about
Taymiyyah.
this. I know about
Yeah?
the-
You can go on academia.ac.uk and read about it.
I know.
Okay, so his view is that they didn't actually, this never actually happened. But the
you quoting
companions
him and never
believed it did. And the reason why is because if he rejects that, he has to explain all these, and he gives 50 different narrations,
So-
50 different narrations that say it.
I just wanted to add something before I have a question about that though. And I do have to get going soon, but listen. So, okay, let me think. God, you said so much. I'm trying to think of which bit to deal
can
with.
just say,
I
I
want to
Let
ask
me
him
go
one thing.
read
He
that.
says don't go back.
that's
He
fine.
says if it doesn't
When
go
it
back to
comes
Muhammad,
yeah.
what does that make it for you? Does it make it weak for you?
What's the early?
Narration weak?
I don't view it from the science of hadith. I don't think that's
Yeah, I
about
know
science.
exactly
No,
because
but
of
you
Joshua
usually
Little.
bring up
You know, you did go with his approach, right?
But you bring
Yeah,
up the
yeah,
argument.
yeah,
bring
yeah.
up- But you bring up the argument though.
I know, but I'm going to question a bit
So I keep saying
methodology.
Jonathan Little. It's Joshua Little.
Joshua Little it is, yeah. He does right, he rejects the hadith and he's done some, his work's interesting, I
very
will say.
comprehensive. Like, from what I saw,
It's
I understand something
comprehensive, but
comprehensive.
whether it's valuable, I would disagree.
that's words,
That's
yeah.
a whole separate discussion. But yeah, I'm familiar with his works. That's fine.
You
So
gotta go.
no, but I have. It's an important. He's making a good point. No, I want to address it because it's actually interesting.
Well, he doesn't
I wanted to go an hour ago. I wanted to go.
Is that it's pointless
No,
content?
I'm not going to come in.
Brother, let me answer that.
I came
I'll
here
be
because it's my
honest
last
with
chance
you.
to get here.
You're good, man.
It's my last
So-
chance to come here for like another month.
For
I'm from up north, Hull, so it's very
name
far.
again?
Omar. I'm from Hull, so it's very far. I just came because
So
I
why
wanted
you
to go.
put why do you put all these things?
I wanted.
I don't even listen.
No,
Says
it's
he
good.
doesn't
I enjoy
want
our
person
discussion.
like-
It's very good.
Yeah,
Actually.
I like
doesn't
it.
matter if
Respectful.
You've obviously done your homework.
No, it's same for you, honestly. So my thing is, your understanding of like these hadith, for example.
Yeah.
You understand that we don't need to go to Imam Bukhari's Sahih, for example. Why? Imam Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. You're familiar with Imam Malik, right?
Yes.
Who's earlier.
Fan of the Malik.
Malik madhab, yeah. So he's predates it, right? The Sahih, Imam Bukhari Sahih.
Yeah.
So Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, you know where they get a lot of the narrations from?
Yeah, from
Al-Muwatta, right? Al-Muwatta, yeah.
yeah.
So Al-Muwatta is actually, there's many narrations. I've tried to get the book, but it's so hard to get actually. So, but I've read like from the PDF though. There's many narrations, reports where it's just one person in it. From Imam Malik, one person to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you would agree with this? This becomes nearly difficult, impossible to dispute, right? Compared to like where there's like 20 people in the chain. You would agree? It's more convincing, Yani. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, I think that is more convincing.
Because Imam Malik, and this is the thing that I don't hear a lot of people speak, and the fact that you knew about that shocked me actually, I'll be honest, because a lot of people don't know about that, Muslim and non-Muslim. Imam Malik actually had Al-Muwatta, right? And then you have Abu Hanifa, for example, Kitab al-Afar, right? And this is a good one as well, a bunch of hadith. Now they've made these collections to show narrations which support their fiqh rulings, right? You're familiar with this, right? So Al-Muwatta, for example, or Kitab al-Afar, these were written and compiled. So people get very aggressive here, right? So they wrote these books to include, thank God, they write these books and take narrations to support their rulings, right? To justify. So we know when they're going through Sunnah, they support their view by hadith. So you would agree that Al-Muwatta, for example, if it's the case, because it's not always the case, I'm going to be fair, but there are many instances, right, where you have just one person between Rasulullah and also Imam Malik. So if it's the case that this is the case, it's likely, it's more like a lot more likely than if there's like 10 people, right?
Yeah, the
According
issue
to your
is though, is
methodology.
that I would contrast that, which I think is better, like having a short narration. I think a short chain is
If it's
better.
mutawatir, if it's mass transmitted as well, because we find a lot like Kitab al-Afar, Al-Muwatta.
Okay, well then you have many chains.
No, many chains, but it's one person between it. So for example, Imam Malik,
Okay, but it's not the same person.
No, different
the same
people. No,
person, it's
then it's no longer well.
If you're going to the same guy,
it's
it's
different. No, but it
chain,
depends
chain
how
is
far up the chain. But if it's from the beginning, if it's one person, that's irrelevant example, right?
So what I would say though is, to me,
Yeah.
I would say, look, if there are all these traditions that something happens and it comes from the Salaf, although they don't meet the criteria of the chain, of the science of hadith, I would say that's actually arguably more reliable than the latest stuff.
I'll tell you why that's not. That's a good point actually. I'm going to mention something like this as well.
What latest stuff? What latest stuff? I don't know. The latest stuff, where does it came from?
So if you're talking about like Sahih Abu Bukhari's work,
Yeah, we'll go in a minute, Habib. No problem.
that's going to be later.
No, I'm not.
No, but Imam
understand the
Bukhari
latest of
Sahih, a lot of it actually comes. I didn't know this actually. So I looked into it. A lot of it actually comes from
I
Al-Muwatta.
didn't
I
write
didn't
in our
know this.
vacuum. Bukhari didn't write in our vacuum.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, there was prior collections of hadith before
collection
him, right?
is written.
Kitab al-Afar.
Destroyed.
Yes.
How many was it? Until he had like 9,000, 6,000?
It's
What
like
was it,
compiled
sorry?
something that was already there.
Yeah.
There was millions of hadith, many of them fabricated.
Yeah,
but this is why Bukhari and Al-Muwatta, they went specifically, they filtered them, right? The later muhaddithin. And that's why. No, and I'll tell you why. Because we have many hadith narrations which seem as unpleasing for the Muslim, right? But it's still included. So we're not just only including, Muhammad ﷺ did all these miracles. What about Aisha radiallahu anha? His marriage to her. You guys say that's a problem, and it's seen as, I don't want to get onto that, but morally it's not a moral argument. We don't think it's a good argument though, right? Moral-wise. Like, just saying, it's wrong.
Depends if the Muslims that say that it wasn't embarrassing at the time are right.
Sorry, repeat that again. Sorry.
It depends if the Muslims that say that that wasn't embarrassing at the time.
Well, right. No, yeah. But would you? Okay. I was going to ask you. Would you make a moral? Would you make an argument against Islam being false because of that? Would that be one of your arguments or not?
So I would actually take a nuanced view on this, and I would say
If he came earlier, I'd speak to him as well.
the bigger problem with it is that it seems as if Muhammad acted according to revelation that he did what he had done.
I didn't hear you. Repeat what you mean by that.
So, for example, Muhammad had relations with Aisha when she was 9. It seems that that would have not been revealed at the time that he did that.
Repeat that, sorry. Last.
So there's revelation.
So he had the
Quran.
relation. We understand he consummated it. This is undeniable.
So Atalak, ayah 4.
Oh, Allah, I was just going to ask you to. I've studied this in fiqh, by the way. We can discuss this. This is not referred to child. Definitely. I've studied it. No, I've studied it. I can just,
Okay,
this is something I'm
if I
actually.
just look at the commentaries, what would they say?
Yeah. So we have Ibn Kathir, for example. We have Al Fawzan. No.
Jalalain.
No. Jalalain. I've got
Supposedly Ibn
Jalalain.
Abbas.
I've got Jalalain As-Sa'di at home.
And they say
Ibn
what?
Kathir. Yeah, no problem.
What do
So
they say?
understand. I'm gonna tell you. So they understand it as what, and I'm going to tell you how the fuqaha understand. Because to us in authority, okay, what makes it permissible, right?
Okay,
What
this doesn't sound like an answer.
No, I'm telling you an answer. The earliest scholars, which predate Ibn Kathir, are Jalalain, which is written by the two Jalalain. Yeah, exactly. So there's two. Written by As-Sa'di. We have even earlier than that. Those who were written earlier are the scholars of Al-Hidayah, for example. Like basic books of fiqh in the Hanafi method, for example, right? Al-Hidayah, because it's like one of the very early methods. Al-Hidayah, Imam Al-Qudri's Mukhtasar. They understand this referring to the girl who has reached puberty but hasn't menstruated. I'll tell you what that means. We say that you can reach puberty without menstruating. We don't say that a necessary condition for puberty is menstruation. This is the position of the fuqaha. And that's how they understand 65.4. And this is a tradition from the early scholars to the later scholars, like Al-Fawzan, for example. No.
Because if you haven't started menstruation but you have started puberty, that's still not sufficient time for you to have sex.
According to what standard, sorry?
Before you started to have your monthly cycle.
Absolutely.
You can have sex with someone.
I'm saying your period can, your puberty, you can obtain puberty.
Puberty is in stages.
Yeah, exactly. And period is one of the later stages. Exactly, right?
So first, one of the stages of
menstruation is a later
your
sign.
hips expand, your
Yeah,
breasts
but they're
develop,
not
pubic hair
the very late.
Well, but my point
They're
is
prior
that
to
the menstrual-
they're prior to menstruating.
Right.
You would agree with that, right? Tanner stage 4
you need to be
menstruating.
menstruating.
No.
You can't even conceive a baby.
I'm going to just
if you're not menstruating.
first of just one.
If you haven't even began that.
We're not talking about having a baby. Consummating does not mean you have a baby. You choose to consummate a
Right,
marriage
so
without
you
having a
agree
baby,
then that
right?
you can
And that's
consummate a
why.
marriage without having a baby, without the possibility of having a baby.
Repeat it, sorry, what? Yeah, of course, absolutely. Wait, of course. So a woman who cannot have babies, and now they're not going to get satisfaction.
No. But if you,
And I'll tell you what's
Quran
the
is a
evidence.
general
I'm going to
sense
tell you the
about those
evidence
who
for
have
this.
not yet
I'll
matured
tell you the
to
evidence for this, right? I'll tell you the evidence.
But they haven't matured to it.
I'm going to tell you the evidence. In the Quran, chapter 4, verse 6 as well, you know about this. It talks about mental maturity. Now, that's a very vague term, right? Someone might. Qurtubi. Yeah, and that's very fine. Al-Qurtubi, we have Ibn Kathir as well. We have Al-Tabari. So they understand this, and Jalalain is actually good for this. I'll tell you why. Ibn Kathir goes he goes in depth, right, in his tafsir. Jalalain I like why, because Jalalain gives examples of what it means. Because saying that a girl has to be mentally mature is very vague. You understand? It's not like what's mature. Someone could say
So
mature.
I don't understand the point. He's saying Aisha wasn't mature. What is
No.
it?
He mentioned Aisha, then he says the Quran in 65:4 where it says وَلَا إِلَمْ يَحِدْنَا, those who have not yet menstruated. It says this allows us to concentrate with a girl, a child, pre-breasting girl. I'm saying the
What does
fuqaha.
it say, child? I don't know.
No, he's saying
Well, the word
pre-breasting.
Nisa is used, and that's interesting because we're
According to Al-Tabari, what does Al-Tabari say about An-Nisa?
It's for the children.
Oh yeah, he says, and this is an important one actually.
No, I'm trying to understand Arabic. He says this is for the children, like little girls, little.
So he quotes the Old Testament, and he quotes the story of when all the young.
And he says Nisa, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't say young. You're presupposing the Old Testament to.
Well, yeah, but it's very weird if you don't think of it.
I'll tell you why it's not weird.
Another problem is.
I know, but no. Let's go one by one. Orphans. I know you're gonna
If you
say.
read Al-Qurtubi even says, this looks very much like it's talking about children.
No, I know why they get this opinion.
Ayah 6.
I'll tell you why.
It talks about them maturing.
Yeah, in Surah An-Nisa.
And so then they have guardianship, and when do they receive their inheritance?
Kathir
What's the criteria for account current for a woman to get married? Do you know? After what's the Or what are the
Having
criteria?
achieved maturity.
Only one thing alone?
I know. I want to finish.
Well, you can break that down into
No, account
anything.
current is the only one thing alone mentioned?
According to the Quran.
Yeah, for a woman ready for marriage. There's only one thing alone mentioned. There's only the puberty alone.
Wet dreams.
Is there any, is there anything more to mention?
The Quran makes it well. The Quran terms in wait.
You say you know or you don't know. I'm saying according to the Quran, is there
I'm trying
anything
to
else mentioned?
frame it as holistically as I can.
No, but the question I'm asking is there anything else mentioned? I agree that puberty.
Okay, so all right.
Well,
So,
if the question.
Surah Nisa ayah 6, it talks about
I'm talking
what
in
it
the
means to be
entire
mature,
Quran.
and it talks about being marriageable age.
You, I'm asking the first answer. You talk about
I
comprehensive
want to go
understanding
eat,
of the Bible.
but it's
When we ask the
wasting too
question.
much time.
So this is about the whole
I'm not
entire
able to
comprehensive
speak. I was able to speak for
According to the Quran, did the Quran only give the biological puberty for maturity and ready for marriage, or does it give other things as
Being
well?
recorded, it's fine.
Does it give anything else?
To my knowledge, it doesn't explicitly say things like,
I'm not sure what
a child is maturing into a woman when X, Y, Z.
I'm not
Record
about
this
detail, but
bit.
does it give anything else apart from the puberty?
It doesn't give
The
puberty.
cameras are recording, so it's fine.
It gives
just for this bit.
menstruation.
Yeah, I mean that's talking the menstruation, but does the Quran give anything else apart from that?
Not that I'm aware of. You can break 4-6 down.
This is
Well, tell me. Can you tell me?
I can tell you, I'm going to tell you. I
Because
know
the
this.
Quran talk about
Maybe
soundness of mind as well, mental soundness.
Yes, it
You
does.
don't, you don't mention
no,
that.
but
Like,
let me explain. 4-6.
I haven't got too long, but I want to finish this. It's really important.
4-6. It separates mature
you know,
soundness
but why
of
do you
mind from
mention it then
marital
if
age.
you know?
No,
No,
they're separate. And
no,
our
it
concept
doesn't.
says they're separate.
No,
No,
due
the
respect.
soundness.
When I talk about half and all I say when you find
Let's read it.
soundness in them, when you find soundness in them, it's talking about mental
And then,
soundness,
and then it says
mental maturity.
Let's read it.
No, listen,
But you don't
Chris,
mention
can
that
you just
mental
stick with me for
maturity.
I agree that
I really, I
that's
don't
in
want to
terms of
waste
all
my.
things being older.
There's many criteria before a woman
Chris,
can be married.
It does say marriageable
The
age.
wali
mental
permission also
maturity, though.
needed.
Let's read it, man.
No, but just
you have to-
Quran itself does attribute. By the way, it's not translated according to me. Just so you know, according to me, it's not translated in English on.
Aisha Bewley is translating. I have the
translating, no?
first 4 books.
It's translated, but on Quran.com it's not though.
I'm not looking. No,
Also,
I'm
how many
looking at
how much you got finished it all or not?
No.
I want to get some, but they're very yeah.
What I like.
No,
The Quran
translation.
says,
I want to
does
get
the Quran say married woman by seeking permission of the guardian, folks? Did Allah say that in the Quran?
1 second, my friend.
Listen, but Chris, you understand four things.
And test the orphans and their abilities until they reach marriageable age.
Yes.
Then, if you perceive in them sound
So
judgment,
it predicates
So
sound
it's two
judgment.
separate-
No,
Sound
but it
judgment, two
predicates.
different
but there have been differences of opinion about what this means. That's why I'm
And to
pointing
be
out
apparent,
Qurtubi.
and to that of a Jalalain and Ibn Kathir
Right,
as-Sa'di, which you
for
can bring up
example,
as well.
Al-Qurtubi says that marriageable age refers to pubic hair.
Okay. No, this is the position.
No,
I'll tell
that's
you
two
why.
different arguments. That doesn't
I'm
mean
quoting a scholar on what
I
that
want it to
means.
be
He
beneficial.
says
I'm gonna tell you
soundness
why.
of judgment is determined by how a woman reacts with her husband.
Okay, listen, Chris. That's a good point, actually. So there is a condition in the Hanbali madhab. The pubic hair is a condition.
does woman consent need as well? Does the Quran mention that the woman has to give consent?
Consent is something which
No,
is
does the Quran
established in
mention that she
our...
has to give consent herself? Does the Quran mention that? The Quran doesn't mention the woman have to give consent before she can marry.
With respect, I want to hear this man speak.
No, but I'm saying to you, you have to be honest. There's over 5 things mentioned in the Quran where you pick up one thing. I said,
I would love to hear them.
I'm saying this one is number 4.
I'll tell you.
I'm telling you,
I don't want to interrupt you. Out of respect. I
this
don't
guy
want to interrupt.
is dangerous, man. You're butchering our concept, brother.
But listen, so it's important by Qurtubi why he holds this position actually. In the Hanbali madhab, they take the hadith as a hujjah where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, basically, we know the, okay, I don't want to, let me think how to word it because I don't want to give ammunition or go too much with it. I want to keep it simple. So there's a narration where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there was a military who he attacked, right? A military he got back, okay? Who attacked him first, he gave them warnings and then he attacked, okay? Now, those who were spared was the boys who what? Who didn't have pubic hair. Now, because that's one evidence, the Hanbali madhab say this is a hujjah upon us because it shows that the people who's unalive, they obtained puberty. They was responsible. Evidence was that they obtained pubic hair. Because there was a boy who said, I didn't obtain pubic hair, I was amongst those who wasn't unalive. This is one of the hujjah. But the Quran chapter 4 verse 6, it predicates marriageable age being with what? Mental maturity. I'll tell you why. Test them until they obtain mental maturity, and this is understood by Ibn Kathir, Jalalain, At-Tabari, As-Sa'di. I have at home, I can bring. Yeah, Qurtubi makes mistakes. For example, I'm gonna tell you a mistake.
What about
Qurtubi? No.
You quote the individual that you like, you don't quote the majority.
You quote Ibn Kathir.
And it's democratic.
I'm quoting it because it's fresh in my mind.
Because then when the majority of
I'm going to
scholars say
summarize it.
opposing
I'm going to summarize it with the standards. I haven't got too long.
that mean you chirp it, you
And we can have a discussion online. I tried emailing, I tried commenting on your YouTube videos to get in contact with the BTU. The Injil and confirmation of the Injil. You debated the brother Dino already. You already debated that. But I'd love to because I don't. Thank you. I like that topic. Yeah. So, but the point is, in Islam we have multiple systems. But the Hanafi method is simple, right? It's very simple. That's why I like it.
The chirp can
So, Shamsi. Okay, anyways. I want to see that. A lot of people haven't seen me yet. I see on YouTube a lot. So listen, yeah, I'll go to the inshallah soon. But listen, so we say menstruation is an example, and we say that having a baby would show signs of puberty. Now, a lot of people misunderstood this as well. I'll tell you why. People say, oh, because you can have a baby and that's a sign of puberty, it means you can have intercourse prior to puberty. That's a misunderstanding, actually, and that's an understanding commonly misunderstood by those who look into al-Mukhtasar by al-Qudri, right? And I had the same misunderstanding, so I went to an imam and I studied it with an imam. That's why we study these books with imams. It's important.
Another thing,
Now,
all scholars will
Islam-
agree, and most of you don't know as well, to marriage, for a woman to marry, there's no reciprocating of arm. The marriage,
Yeah, the agreed hand cannot be
many
married.
Muslims don't know this. That's the one thing,
I'm
brother.
just
Many
saying,
Muslims don't know this. Many
Many
Muslims
my
don't know
number if you
this.
want. I don't mind. You can contact me.
For a woman married,
Just email me.
married,
Is that all right?
What's your email?
Chris at
there
Speakers
cannot be
Corner.
no
Well, that's
reciprocating.
very easy. Okay, I'll definitely.
Well,
Marriage must
If this
not be
video is going
armed.
online,
well,
I
it's
can
Chris.
watch the video again anyway.
Yeah, I put it on the